Hello, everybody. I'm going to go over something that's really a very, very, very popular topic, something that people always want me to go over and explain in more detail, and that is credits and debits. So let's jump into a quick little video about what they are. And I really want you to first have a really strong basis of understanding as to what the purpose of debits and credits are. And I think that this is where it will clear up a lot of things for a lot of people. So, number one, on the buyer side, it is identifying how much more money they need to bring to the closing table. Okay. It identifies how much more they need to bring to the closing table, as well as how much the seller is going to actually walk away with. So the seller is going to walk away with X. The buyer needs to bring X to the closing table. Now, typically, what might be a credit to a buyer might be a debit to the seller, and there might be things that will be balanced on each side. Okay, so typically there's going to be a lot of things such as taxes, maybe special assessment taxes that were paid, anything like that might be typically just balanced right out on the buyer and the seller side. But there are items that are not going to do that. So watch this. Seller is going to get debited for the real estate commission. Why do they get debited for the real estate commission? Because that comes out of how much they're going to walk away with at closing. Now, if that's the case, does it get credited to the buyer? No, that's going to the real estate agent, right? And also, there's things that are going to be debited to the buyer that are simply not going to go to the seller's bottom line, such as points, mortgage application fees, appraisal fees that they might need to pay at closing. So, what happens is what you need to do is identify whose bottom line this is going towards. So, if it's going to be something that the buyer needs to bring to the table, then what happens is it's going to be a debit to them, right? If it's something that the seller is going to walk away with, it's going to be a credit to them. However, if it is something that the seller would need to pay off out of what they're getting from the proceeds, then it would be a debit to them and not necessarily a credit to the buyer because you have to identify what that thing is. So, something that's typically a credit to the buyer, earnest money deposits. Why are earnest money deposits a credit to the buyer? Because those are funds that the buyer has already paid that they do not need to bring to closing. Because again, what we're trying to solve is how much money do you need to bring in addition to the cost of whatever you have here, to whatever you already might have. How much money do you need to bring to close, right? And you have to get an accounting for that. Okay, so earnest money going to be a credit to the buyer because the money's already there. You don't need to bring it. Okay, something else that's typically a credit to the buyer is the loan. So the loan that you're going to be getting in exchange for the mortgage, right? So what happens is that mortgage loan is going to be something that's going to be a credit to the buyer because do they need to bring that 3, 4, $500,000? No, but something that is a debit is the sale price of the home because again they're purchasing that and that's going to be one that will balance because that will be a credit. The gross sales price is going to be a credit to the seller. So I hope that you realize that there are things that you simply just have to identify. What is this? Is this money that needs to be brought to the closing table? If so, debit the buyer, right? If it's something that doesn't need to be brought to the closing table or it's already there, then you're going to credit the buyer, okay? If it's something that the seller needs to pay out of the gross funds they're going to receive, which is the sale price, then that is going to be a debit to the seller. And sometimes, depending on what it is, would dictate whether it's going to balance or not. Something else that people always get confused with is this. They are going to have your calculations based off of a 360-day calendar and 30 days in the month, regardless of how many actual days there are in that month. So I hope that helps you out when calculating certain things and remembering what is a credit and what is a debit for your buyers and your sellers. And again, if you like what I'm doing here, hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys real soon.